Hi, I'm Phoebe, and welcome to the Pure Food for Thought program. And I'm here with Diana Penn. We're recording at the Chronicles studio, and I'm so glad you tuned in because Diana is a very special guest, and she has an amazing story to tell.
I do.
I think you do.
And thanks for inviting me. I appreciate it.
So, Diana, with all of your background in pastry and as a pastry chef, I'm sure you've had some interesting journeys. But what would you like people to learn from your story today?
Well, I have to say that when I first started out, I really wasn't focused on pastry. I didn't actually think I was going to be a pastry chef. I think a lot of people grow up with focus, that they know, when I grow up, I want to be a nurse, or when I grow up, I know I want to have, this kind of wedding or this kind of house or marry this kind of person. But it didn't quite go that way for me. So I actually started off, and I was going to school for economics and computer science.
I did not know that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I would never have guessed.
Yeah. I saw some movie about stockbrokers, and I really wanted to be a stockbroker and work on Wall Street. But somehow things changed because I was in school for that, and I really didn't feel like it was the place for me. But I just kept going to school, and my aunt said, why are you in school if you're not happy? I'm surprised you didn't actually go to baking school. And I was like, there's school for baking? Because everyone in my family is more like white collar. So I didn't actually know that there was a culinary school or baking school. So she's like, yeah, of course, there's trade schools, technical schools. Why don't you look into it? So I did. And I applied for a scholarship 2 years in a row, and both years they had told me, we already handed out the scholarships for this year. Oh. And I was like, I didn't even get the application,
Mm-hmm.
So the third year, somebody had called and said, hey, we're calling about an application for a scholarship. And they asked me a couple questions. And then a week later, I got a letter that said I was accepted to a little school in New York called Peter Kump's New York Restaurant School. And in the meanwhile, that was exciting. But in the meanwhile, I had already quit my job and started working in a bakery.
Wow.
Third shift, just because I loved it. I was working, I think, doing inventory control or something for a computer company. And so I quit my job and I started working in the industry. And I was also going to school in New York on that scholarship. And I graduated, and I went for more interviews for better jobs, better positions, and I realized it wasn't quite enough education. So I started looking into the Culinary Institute of America, which was my dream school.
Mm-hmm.
I visited a couple different schools, and when I walked through the doors of the hall, the first hall that I walked in, I got this feeling that I belong there.
Mm-hmm. So tell me, now when I'm
Sorry.
hearing the story, no, because this is fascinating. I had no idea that you went to school to study economics.
Mm-hmm. I wanted to be a stockbroker on Wall Street.
Based on a movie that you saw on Wall Street. So It sounds like your story is about reinvention. It's about kicking perfectionism to the curb, or the thoughts of, I can have this perfect life. I'll have this house at this age. I'll have 2 children at this age. The idea or the notion of perfection. But it was your aunt then?
Yeah, my aunt who just suggested it casually.
That even opened up the notion in your mind that you could do something aside from a typical
what I thought I wanted to do,
mm-hmm.
and then just a suggestion. And she's like, you're always so great. You always bring such amazing things to dinner,
mm-hmm.
Desserts. Why wouldn't you go to school for that? And I had no idea. So it was almost like, you don't know where you're going,
right.
But there's always a path for you if you just believe. And that's pretty much, I really think that that's my story,
mm-hmm.
that there's some sort of big plan,
right.
Which I've always known that there was a plan, but I never knew how I was going to get there.
Do you think there's a plan, or do you think that we have to be flexible or open to reinvention?
Both.
Do you think?
Yeah. I think both.
And why do you think it is? How old were you when your aunt said to you, would you consider baking?
And probably 18.
Okay, so you're still young.
18 or 19, yeah.
Why do you think when you're young like that, because when you're finishing high school, when you're in that age, a lot of people think they have to have all of the answers.
Oh,
So why can't we see it when we're so young? Is it sometimes that we have to be sure to be open to outside, not persuasion, but outside perception
Suggestions.
about, things that maybe,
yeah. I don't.
That-
I understand what you're. I understand what you're saying. No, I do think that you should be open to anything, to experimenting with your life, because that's the time to do it. I actually have a hard time believing that you should know what you're doing, you're going to do for the rest of your life when you're 18. I think you should do as much as you can to eliminate what you don't like, to figure out eventually what you do. You know what? But I also have plenty of friends that went to school on that track, that they did what everybody expected them to do, and they have degrees in history or English, and they're not doing that anymore. But somehow the things that they've done in their past still benefited exactly where they are right now. So, like, I don't think that any experience is a waste of time. Because believe me, if you ask my family, like, I've had a variety of different jobs, and when food service, you bounce around a lot, and I used to feel bad about that. Until I started to realize that all of those things were experiences that I could gather. And now that I look back at them, I see how they put me in the position that I'm in today.
So you don't live with regrets?
Oh, no.
Do you think? No?
No.
Even with the mistakes you've made?
Oh, no. No.
I heard...
You have to fail. Like,
yes,
that's
exactly.
That's our motto. Like, I teach pastry now to high school kids, and I love it. And our class motto is fail forward.
Oh, I love that. Fail forward.
Yeah, like you have to get all that stuff out of the way. I told them I'd rather you fail or make mistakes here, get fired now. Learn it now, so that when you're out there and things really start to mean something, that you can be more successful. So I like to get all the mistakes out of the way up front, and I've I've done all that.
You've done a few?
Yeah, of course.
I heard a girl on Shark Tank, it was. Do you watch that?
Oh,
With
yeah,
the entrepreneurs?
every show.
Okay, yes. So the girl came out and she was in college and she said, I have to make this work. Like, failure isn't an option. And I almost felt,
Oh my gosh.
I felt like so much pressure for her, because I
Right.
thought, if you can't work around this, or if you can't accept that it's a mistake or something's wrong,
then
what?
what?
Then what?
Yeah.
What can you accomplish? So you work a lot with, you teach students now.
Yes.
Like, you've done a lot of work in a lot of industries.
Yeah.
But you're teaching now, and you're teaching, is it 9th grade? 10th
It's
grade?
all 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th.
Okay.
And I love it. And I really, if you would have asked me, even 4 years ago, if I would have been teaching high school, teaching pastry, yes. Teaching high school pastry, maybe not so much. But I love it. I love it because the kids are great.
Now, you've done cooking classes outside of Berks County. So you've taught adults and you've taught the teenagers.
Yes.
So when we get back from our break, I'm very curious to know, like, the different experiences that you have working with adults and working with youth.
Okay.
So we'll talk
that
about
sounds great.
Yeah, we'll talk about
Okay.
that too.